want to know a bit more about this no grass culture, because you would have thought when something happens, like a 9-year-old getting shot to death in her own home and this, that and the other, surely that's the time when things change. But Mark Bracewell is here, and he's the managing director of Blinded Faith, which is a group which goes into schools and discusses crime, etc., does loads more as well, community work. And before he turned his life around, which he very much has now, doesn't mind admitting, of course, he was a drug dealer, a gang member, now using his experience to explain to children why it's important to speak out. Really appreciate you coming on, Mark. Congratulations on turning your life around and all the great work that you do as well. Now, why is this particular chap, do you think, if we're led to believe from what the police are saying is true anyway, is not grassing on the people who presumably he must know, trying to shoot him and instead shot a 9-year-old girl dead?
Well, I mean, like you said, they tried to shoot him. So clearly, this is someone that's going to be afraid for their life. Obviously, if it is what they're saying it is, and it is gang culture and gang connected, then obviously he's going to be in fear for his life because they've already tried to take it once. And unfortunately, obviously, this little girl has been caught in the crossfire, so to speak. And I'm pretty sure that the person it was intended for doesn't want it to affect, obviously, anyone else. And like I say, if they come back for him again, it could affect people in his family and other people that are innocent.
Is that how it works, do you think? Do you think this guy might be sweating in a police cell now thinking, goodness gracious me, they might know where my family are, they might know where my grandma lives, they might know anything. I'm keeping my mouth shut because these people are so evil that if they think I've even squealed a little bit, they'll go around and finish them off?
Well, yeah, most definitely, because ultimately they're going to want to protect themselves, aren't they? Because especially now with what's happened, they ain't going to want to get caught, because if they do, they're never going to see the light of day again, are they? And as we can see, they've already gone to such lengths to try and take somebody's life, and then within doing that, has taken someone's life that was innocent. And I believe the young girl's mother was shot as well. So they're going to be fearing for their life and everybody else.
And let's just kind of broaden it a little bit, so not just focus on this specific case, just talk more generally. When there are unintended victims of crime, right, and unintended victims are killed, OK, is there any conscience whatsoever within the kind of organised crime, drug dealing, gang community? You know, will other people in other gangs be looking at them and going, you know, goodness me, you know, you killed a kid? Or is it just kind of blanked out in that world, you know?
Well, if I'm being honest, I can't answer what other people will think. Obviously, I can only answer how I would feel and things like that, and how I felt in the past. I mean, I can also bring up a shooting that happened just last week in Moss Side in Manchester, where a young gentleman was killed, and the community have stood up, and the community is speaking out because they're sick and tired of the things that happens in that area. And in the past, as you say, the no grass mentality has been stood out. I lost my first friend at the age of 14 who was shot and murdered in Moss Side, and the killer has never been found because nobody's ever spoke out, because people were too scared of what could happen to them. But as you can see, it is starting to change, and people are starting to stand up and take a stance against it, because ultimately we need it to stop. And that's how we teach the kids. It's okay to speak out. If we speak out, then we can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe I am actually joined by Christine Hamilton, who's in the studio with me today. And I believe that you would quite like to just ask something quickly.
Well, I just wondered, my belief or my thought was that the police probably know out of a handful of people, it's one of those who they're looking for. And I wondered what you thought about that. I mean, it seems to me extraordinary that they haven't actually gone out and hauled in the smallish number of people on the assumption that it's bound to be one of them.
Well, like you say, you're saying that the police probably know, but if they did know, they would have arrested them and would have pulled them in. And I think sometimes the police might give out information to stop us from being scared. Because ultimately, if people are scared, then they're not going to come forward and speak. But if they knew who it was, they'd have him in the police station now, wouldn't they? That's a good point. Now, can I just ask you a little bit about your experiences? I mean, I had a briefing sheet, obviously. I know a bit about you, but I'd rather you kind of put it in your own words, really. You've
Well, I suppose you've been at the rough end in the past, anyway, of gang culture, etc. And I think you've got a couple of the war wounds to prove it as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I have, yeah. So, like I say, I was involved in gangs myself growing up, and that was something that I fell into with being in the area that I grew up with and the sort of life that I had, basically. I was stabbed in the face myself and in the neck, and I lost my eye. And I guess just in the way that I would grow up and the way that things were taught to me, it was to keep it to yourself and not to go to the police. But that came down to a bit of the fear that we had from the police as well. And,
right.
I guess the only way I can describe it is I call it like the flat world scenario. Everybody thought the world was flat until we knew it was round. And at the end of the day, when you're being taught that it's wrong to tell the police or to speak to the police, that's what you believe because that's what you grow up and that's how it is. So yes, there is fear, but there's also that's what you've been taught. So that's how you grow up.
And it must create a cycle, because if it is that let's not go to the police, right? And I think there's a huge amount of truth in what you just said there. And Liverpool is a city renowned for, rightly or wrongly as well, in many cases, having a deep scepticism of authority, shall we say. All right, it's a city that's been treated quite badly in the past on numerous different occasions. And so I can fully believe that gang culture there would have been drilled into people. Do not go to the police. Do not go to the police. But then this line that probably follows that is, we'll handle it ourselves. And does that not lead to this spiral of crime? And that's why you see shooting, then another shooting, then a stabbing, and it just escalates.
Yeah, yes, it is definitely, and it's definitely starting to affect the youth culture today. As we know, I campaign against knives and things like that because obviously the things that the youth are doing nowadays, they see it as a normal to carry a knife, and then obviously if they see someone getting stabbed, they won't go to the authorities and tell the authorities. So which means that person gets away, and potentially he got away with it once, so why won't you do it again? You know, and like you say, it does breed a culture of tit for tat where people then come back, and it just makes it worse. And that's why, like I say, that's why us at Blinded Faith work so avidly to teach people it's okay to speak out. The best thing is to speak out. The best thing for humanity and for yourself and our society is to speak out against the people that are doing wrong.